All right, so today we're in section 6.3, two-way tables. Two-way tables. Do I have any blanks in the notes part up here? Okay, so they display two categories of data collected from the same source. So we'll see some examples of that in just a minute. But it's two categories of data collected from the same source. So I can't, ask students in one school over here and students in a whole nother school over here and then put that together into one table. All right, it has to come from the same source. Each entry in the table is called a joint frequency. So each specific number. So if I were to highlight a number in a two-way table, could you tell me that that is the joint frequency versus the marginal frequency? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So the marginal frequency is the sums of the rows in the table. So it's the actual sum. So that's the difference. All right, everybody got your blanks? Okay, so let's look at a two-way table. So here we have students in a class. So that's one category. Remember, two-way table is two categories, two or more categories. All right, so students in a class and the grade they received on a test. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cross-compare, all right, the two categories together. For example, a student who did not study and still passed. All right, so the student did not study but passed. That number is a 2. All right, so if I asked you how many students did not study and still passed, you would cross them together and you would say 2. So how many students did not study and failed? 6. So you see how to read it. How many students studied but still failed? 1. Okay, so just simply reading the table. All right, so let's answer these questions. How many students in the survey below studied for the test and passed? What do you guys think? 21. All right, so go ahead and write in 21. How many students in the survey studied for the test and failed?
1.
Only 1. Okay, I know which category I would want to be in. Okay, studied for the test. All right, obviously it made a big difference here in this scenario. Okay, so now let's talk about marginal frequencies. The same exact table. Okay, so the joint frequency is the one individual number. Like we just said, they studied and passed, that's 21. The marginal frequency is the sum of the row, okay? So now I want to know, so I want you to add another block underneath, okay? Go ahead and add another block underneath. I want to know how many students studied for the test, total. So 21 plus 1 is what? 22. I want to know how many students did not study. How many students did not study? The whole row. 8. Okay. Now I'm going to go across. How many students total passed? All right. 23. And how many students total failed? 7. So now these numbers are my marginal frequencies. All right. So here's how I can check to make sure they're correct. My marginal frequencies will both add up to the same number. So what's 23 plus 7? 30. And what's 22 plus 8? 30. So both rows will add up to 30, which is the total, just 30. Okay, so 30 is the number that kind of comes down here, but they both add up to the same sum. Okay, so what's the interpretation? You're simply going to put it in words. 22, okay, my first marginal frequency, 22 students studied. Okay, how many did not study? 8, and I'm just going to write did not study. We know they're students. Okay, so 8 did not study. What did 23 stand for? 23 what? Passed. And what did the 7 stand for? 7 failed. Okay? These are the marginal frequency interpretations. So on your big ideas homework tonight, okay? So on your big ideas homework tonight, it's going to give you options like this, and you're going to have to check off which one of them, which options were interpretations. Okay, so it shouldn't be too bad. All right. So now what I want to do on this example is the exact same thing we just did. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is calculate your marginal frequencies. Okay. So go ahead and draw your extra boxes. All right. And I want you to calculate your marginal frequencies. That's a fancy word for the total. Okay. Just add up the total of the rows and columns. All right. Go ahead and do that. So 51 is my first marginal frequency. So 51 students, what? What does that column stand for? Yes, attended the football game. You can just say attended football. Okay, perfect. All right, how many, what was your next marginal frequency? All right, 25. And what does that one mean? All right, 25 did not attend. And you can just say football. All right, so now I'm going to go across. All right, so my top category, what was 35 plus 5? 40. And what is that interpretation? 40 attended what? The dance. Yes, because I'm going across now. So dance is my category across. So 40 attended the dance.
40 did not.
Yeah.
Where did the dance come from? What?
They ask people who's going to the football game and who's going to the dance. Okay?
Where did dance come from?
It's the category. It's the category. It's up here. So how many went to the football game? How many went to the dance? So 40 attended the dance. How many did not attend the dance? 36. 36 did not attend. All right, now let's look at joint frequencies. Can anybody tell me what the 35 means? Just the 35. What number, or what, can anybody tell me, I guess an interpretation for this one. 35 what?
Attended both the dance.
All right, did you hear what she said? 35 students attended both the football game and the dance. All right, can anybody raise your hand and tell me what 20 means? Chase?
20 students didn't attend either.
Yes, 20 students didn't attend either. So they asked them, hey, did you go to the football game or the dance? They're like, no, I just stayed home and, hung out by myself instead of hanging out with friends.
That sounds
All right.
honestly.
Okay, so, if you're an introvert, all right, or you like being home, maybe that would be your choice. Okay, so any questions on marginal frequencies? So this part is going to be on your next quiz and test also. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is, and you have one,
We're not going to add those together?
No, it does add together to be 76, but you don't have to. That's a way you can check it, but
See if you're right.
yeah, but that's it. All right, so I'm not going to ask you to make your own table. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the skeleton. Okay, we have ages, and then we have bus and no bus. Okay, do they ride the bus? Do they not ride the bus? My ages are 12 to 13, 14 to 15, and 16 to 17. Okay, so now what I want you to do is look at the tally marks and fill it in. Okay, so for my 12 to 13-year-olds, how many of them ride the bus? How many of them ride the bus?
24.
Okay, so I'm looking 5, 10, 15, 20, and then 24. So 24. Okay, and I want you to write it kind of to the left of the box, and you're going to see why in a second. All right, I want there to be some space after the 24. Yeah, you're making your own right there at the top. Isn't there a template?
No, there's one at the bottom.
Oh, no, don't do the one at the bottom. Okay, well,
I'm just making my own.
there's a tally mark. Just make your own real quick. I mean, it's not a big deal. Just make your own. You need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns across, and 1, 2, 3, 4 down. Okay, so 5 rows across and 4 down. So it could look like this. It will help you on the next part. Like I said, you have one homework problem that's going to end up doing this. All right, so let's see. And then we've got these rows. All right, bus, no bus, and then your 12 to 13-year-olds, 14 to 15, and 16 to 17. I'll give y'all a minute to set it up. Okay, how many 12 to 13-year-olds did not ride the bus? Oh, did not ride the bus? 16. Look over here. 5, 10, 15, 16. So I want you to write 16. Oops. 16. All right, so how many total 12 to 13-year-olds were surveyed? 24 plus 16 is what? 40. Okay, that's going to be important. Now I want you to do the 14 to 15-year-olds. Okay, so look over here at the tallies. How many rode the bus? How many did not ride the bus? All right, and go ahead and fill in the rest. I also want you to find your marginal frequencies. All right, that's going to be important. Marginal frequencies is your sums. So you got to learn the term, because marginal frequency is easy as long as you know what I'm asking for. Yes. Yeah. You will. Just add them up. Okay. So how many 14 to 15-year-olds did ride the bus? 12. And how many did not?
13.
All right, 13. So my total is 25. How many 16 to 17-year-olds did? 14. How many did not? 21. How many total? 35. How many students total rode the bus? 50. How many students total did not ride the bus? 50. Okay. Now that I have the table filled in, okay, I can answer the following questions. So you need to keep this information, all right? So if you're watching this on the video, all right, on the YouTube video, you're going to need to look back in your notes, because I've got to erase this to do the percentages. Okay, well, actually, I might leave it up here. All right, but you need to look down. Okay, so now I need you to skip down in your notes to the table below it. All right, you see where they're blank? Okay, so we're going to work back and forth between these two tables. So here's the question. They want to know percentages. All right, on number 10 on your homework, you're going to have a blank two-way table, and they want you to plug in percentages. Instead of these numbers, they want a percentage where that number went. Okay, so what they want to know is if 24 people, okay, 12 to 13-year-olds, rode the bus, what percentage is that of the total 40 people? Does that make sense? So 24% is what percent? Or I'm sorry, 24 is what percent of 40? So the way you do that in your calculators is you divide 24 divided by 40. You divide that number divided by 40. All right? Yeah. Well, that's what I told you. The very last one, you might need one. 24 divided by 40 is 0.6. What is that as a percentage? 60. So what did I do? I did 24 divided by 40. I want you to plug in 60% down at that bottom table. 60% of the 12 to 13-year-olds rode the bus. Okay? So now here's where you don't have to do 16 divided by 40, the next one down, because if 60% rode the bus and your total has to be 100%, how can you figure out what percent did not ride the bus? 100 minus 60.
Right.
Subtract that from 100. Okay? The two together have to equal 100%. If 60% rode the bus, that means 40% did not.
Makes sense?
Okay? All right. If that doesn't make sense, in your calculators right now, I want you to divide 16 divided by 40. You're going to have to calculate all your percentages. You subtract it from 100. That's all you're doing. So the second one is 40%. Okay, now I am going to go ahead and shift down on the PowerPoint so I can fill in that bottom table with you guys. But I need you to understand what I'm doing here. So I did 24 divided by 40, and I got 60%. What I'm trying to tell you guys is if this one's 60%, it has to total 100. So 100 minus 60 is going to be 40%. If you know that, you don't have to calculate it. You just subtract it from 100. All right, 14 to 15-year-olds. This is where I need you guys to tell me the number. How many 14 to 15-year-olds rode the bus? 12, okay? So you're going to take 12 and divide it by, what was the total? 25. So 12 divided by 25. 12 divided by 25 is 0.48, which is 48%. Okay? Now, I could do the division on the next one, how many don't ride the bus, or I can know if this one's 48%, what could I subtract it from to find the rest of it? 100. 100 minus 48, 52. It's only 2 shy of 50, so I add 2 to the other side, 52%. Okay? I want you to calculate the percentages for the 16 to 17-year-olds. Okay? So again, on number 10 on Big Ideas, this is what it's going to ask for. All right? So that's really important to me that you guys calculate these percentages correctly. All right? If you don't have a calculator, it's not a huge deal. All right, so at least for today, but you should have a calculator with you every single day. 14 divided by what? 35. And you get what? 0.4, which is what percentage? 40%. So if 40% did ride the bus, how many did not? 60%. Okay? Now, I want you to take a minute and now look at the questions. Okay? So it says, what percent of students ride the bus? Well, we already found that total to be 50. So it's 50% rode it, 50% didn't. But did that mean that half of each grade level? No, because I can see that depending on the age group, what's happening to the data? What's happening? Not necessarily. All right, say it again. You got it. Okay. The older you get, the fewer people who are riding the bus. Why do you think that's the case? Because they're driving. Okay. So what kind of relationship is that? As the age increases, the number of students riding the bus decreases. That's a negative relationship. So anytime it asks you for the relationship, it's asking you for whether it's negative or positive, or if there's no connection at all. Okay? But obviously that makes sense because more of them are driving. All right? So that percentage would, would decrease. Or the number of students riding the bus would decrease. All right. Any questions? Okay, so that's it for your lesson for today.